skies above. Gee, it's great to be alive and love. Good morning, sun. Good morning, light. Good morning, sun. How are you? Skies above. Gee, it's great to be alive and love.
And good morning. Cheers. I am almost out of coffee, and we are waiting for the stream to catch up. Come on in, hop in the chat, YouTube, Twitter, or X, and Twitch. And it sounds like we have audio. Okay. So, hello, Mo. Come on in. Last week, I had touched my gain knob and the audio was suboptimal. So I'm going to try and make some adjustments and keep an eye on it. I am using a Focusrite Scarlett audio interface, and while it is the popular choice for the price point for the enthusiast type person, it is not ideal, and I basically have to buy a new one every year or two, unfortunately. So if anyone has suggestions on audio interfaces that are less than $1,000 that would work, I am open to ideas. Otherwise, I just have to keep buying a new one of these every year or two when the dials start dying. Okay, you didn't come here to talk about that or hear about that. Send questions, comments, jump in the chat, say hello. And I don't know why the restream is telling me there's 0 people here, because at least I know Mo is here. Anyway, I had no idea. I apparently have not been following the whole Blue Origin thing. I knew that they had some like liftoffs and landings with people in them, but they had a full-on rocket launch, and I don't know if they actually put a real satellite into orbit, but the second stage went off into space, and the booster stage landed on a ship in the middle of the ocean. Like, wild. And it looked pretty darn slick. They had their technical challenges, but pretty impressive results. That's image right there. Pretty wild. So if you're into rockets, check out that live stream, Blue Origin. Okay. The weekend, I still had a cold. This thing just will not go away. I'm on full on week 2, and I think I'm getting better, but holy cow. So I played a little bit with Cursor versus Copilot, and I discovered, I don't know if I mentioned this last week, that Cursor is having to veer off in another direction, for better or worse, differentiating itself from VS Code. And the primary challenge that I'm encountering is that Cursor says that they are unable to use Microsoft extensions published in the whatever it is, the VS Code extension marketplace, due to copyright and license issues, whatever. So my vague understanding is that Microsoft extension in the VS Code marketplace can only be used in Microsoft VS Code, if I'm understanding that right. And by allowing the use of the extensions, Microsoft extensions in Cursor, that is a violation of the license. So Cursor has had to boot. Number one, they switched to what is called the Open VSX marketplace. So if you search for AL language extension or any of the other Microsoft extensions, they will not be listed. Now, technically, you can kind of sideload those extensions by going into VS Code, installing the extension, right-clicking, export as VSIX, and then trying to manually import them into Cursor, which I did with AL language extension. But if you try to use like the DevOps extension, or in my case, Cosmo Alpaca, I can install Cosmo Alpaca, but the dependencies that Alpaca has on Microsoft extensions, Cursor will immediately uninstall those, like I believe it's an SSH extension, uninstall the Microsoft one and install their own that they had to develop or license through a third party, which breaks Cosmo Alpaca, and it just doesn't work. So already we're starting to see some divergence here, which I guess for better or worse, but unfortunately, I believe Cursor is clearly a better experience for the developer. So it will be a real bummer if Copilot is our only option for developing AL. It is, in my humble opinion, not as good as Cursor. Nothing to do with AI output. That's up to the agent and the model, and largely they're equivalent. It is more the user experience for the developer and the hassles the developer has to go through just to use the AI agent. In my limited testing, the Copilot is not nearly as good as Cursor. So anyway, and then I watched belatedly watched the recording of the Formula One race in Brazil. That was interesting. Lots of zaniness there. And then I watched the movie The Family Man. Fantastic movie. I love it. And hadn't seen it several years. Really, really fun movie. And weekly projects. Recover. Still. Week 3, 2, whatever. Try to catch up, maybe. Tried to work on some statements of work. Nope, didn't happen. I had a fantastic phone call this week. More on that. And AI is on my mind now constantly. So, hey, could we use AI for that? Hey, what about AI here? Let's see how AI would do this. So I'm starting to get in the swing of things and just make it part of my routine. I use Perplexity 10 times a day to ask it all sorts of dumb questions. Instead of using Google, I use Perplexity, anything from recipes to where is the setting to change dark mode on some app, right? So finally starting to get in that mindset. On Monday, I saw a post by Microsoft, something about some review effort where they are trying to improve security practices. And the new buzzword is now phishing resistant MFA. So initially it was 2FA, then it went to MFA, and now it's phishing resistant MFA because MFA is no longer good enough. And they mentioned using FIDO2 passkeys and conditional access policies. So just because you're using MFA anymore, if you've been paying attention to this, people are just getting phished and they're getting compromised. And I don't know if I talk about it later, but yes, I do. I talked with a partner who got phished and entered his credentials and got his account compromised. I'm like, how did you do that? Like, really? He goes, I don't know. I was distracted, blah, blah, blah. So we had a support request error, whatever, from a customer, and they said, hey, this integration is not working. And this is a AppSource app that we developed with a third-party SaaS service to integrate that service with BC. Customers have been using it for a year, flawless. They process anywhere from 500 to 1,000 transactions a day in minutes. Works wonderfully. This week, they got an error. And it says, this value of 261 characters could not be imported because it exceeds the field length. Like, okay, I know exactly what the error was, right? It's pretty obvious to any developer. But after 1 year, we encounter this. And it's just a data issue, but the issue is that this vendor, we followed their API. I don't know how well their API documents field links, but clearly this one note field had the capacity to be more than 255 characters. I mean, when you don't know the field length, what do you choose as an arbitrary field, length in your integration table? So my developer chose 255. I think is perfectly reasonable. Now, admittedly, what we did not do is do length checking on every single value in every single field. So here we discovered at least one field where we did not have length checking, we were not truncating, and therefore it exceeded the field length and caused a failure. So he went back, reviewed that, found the field causing the issue, truncated it. I asked him to make sure that everything else was truncated just in case. Um, so anyway, no matter how well you try to do something, there's always something little you forgot or didn't anticipate and just crops up a year later. Crazy. DynamicsCon 2026 submitted one session. Um, I, I forgot who it was with, but a co-presenter session got that submitted. I need to go check what session that was, what session that was, and I think anyway, I can't remember. That's kind of weak it's been. I can't remember Monday, but I promise I submitted a session at DynamicsCon. And question to all you experts: is there a Business Central feature equivalent to the Business Central direct debit collections feature, but for the US? Direct debit collections was designed and developed for Europe. And I think it's called the SEPA standard. And basically, if I recall correctly, that's a European, I'll call it proprietary standard, if that makes any sense. It's SEPA standard. I think it's XML-based file output. It does not use data exchange definition. It's just uses its own code unit or procedure or whatever to export the file in the SEPA format. But it has some handy features like, hey, is this customer set up for SEPA? Are these invoices going to be exported for SEPA? And if they're set up for SEPA, you just kind of pull it up, say, yep, go. And it just kind of pushes everything out. Now, for the US, I think we might want more of a review to say, yep, these are the customers that are enrolled. These are the customer invoices or payments, right, that we want to draft for direct debit. And so I'm just wondering, before we reinvent the wheel, is there already a product or service that does this? Because if there is, happily pay for it instead of rebuilding it. But open to suggestions there. Tuesday. Ah, yes, Tuesday. I fortunately was kind of half awake at 5:30 and I heard voices in my house. And I'm like, that sounds strange. And it sounded like a conversation of a couple of men. And I'm like, that's not good in my house. And I'm listening. I'm like, is that like outside? Is that the neighbor? I'm like, nope, that sounds like it's my house. And then it got louder. I'm like, what is going on? And it's like, okay, I have a choice to make. But then as I'm listening, I'm like, it doesn't sound like your average conversation of a couple people. That sounds more like a radio or recording. So I start to go downstairs and I see from downstairs, inside of the first floor is lit up. DD collections are like a worksheet, Jason says. You review before creating files, posting. Yeah. So the functionality looks good, but it is Europe specific. So I don't want to rely upon any of the direct deposit, direct debit, whatever it's called, collections. Because if something changes in that BC functionality, it's going to break our US version. So I think we're stuck with either a US ISV has created something equivalent, which we're not aware of anything so far, or we pretty much have to replicate the functionality in our own and have our own tables, our own code units, our own pages, our own export mechanism. And then the bit of a hassle is we can do it for one customer for their bank, but then we get another customer, we got to redo their bank. Otherwise, we got to build into the data exchange framework or whatever it's called. So, yeah, so that's our conundrum. I don't want to reinvent the wheel, but if we have to, we have to. So, anyway, I go downstairs and it is super bright. I'm like, what? It's like the TV is on. And I go downstairs, I see the TV is on, and it is blasting Formula One from Brazil. Just blaring, full brightness, super loud. And I look around and I see what happened. And I pull up the video of the security camera, and if you have an Apple TV, whatever model the older Apple TV is, you will know that if you touch the remote or if it's in a drawer and someone opens the drawer, the remote will send a signal that turns on the TV, opens up Apple TV, and starts playing whatever you were last watching. So it turns out my cat hopped on the sofa, the Apple TV remote was on the arm, and it decided to sit on the remote. And when it sat on the remote, that's its butt on the remote, it turned on the TV and started blaring Formula One at 5:40 a.m. So that was my Tuesday morning. Hence, I was not terribly productive. Jason says, we've created our own DD collection files using the existing DD collections framework in BC. Okay. And so it sounds like you're in the SEPA or Europe realm. We would need to do this for the US. And we are leery about relying upon any native SEPA or direct debit functionality because, if one thing changes, that could break our PTEs or app. And so, yeah, we need a US vendor or we're going to have to go for it. So that was my Tuesday. Hide your Apple remotes from your cats. Okay. Yeah, at least it was F1. Well, yeah, it was not a fun day. I was pretty tired. Wednesday. Oh my gosh. Please tell me I am not brain damaged. Like, on the one hand, you could tell me what I'm doing wrong. On the other hand, you could say, no, it's not you, Steve. It's some stupid issue in Cronus. I cannot get. You're in the UK using GBP, not Euro. Okay, got it. Okay, that kind of makes sense. Sales order won't post to invoice. So I am in Cronus trying to post a sales order to invoice, not shipment and invoice, just to invoice, in order to troubleshoot a support ticket we have. And this is what I constantly get. You cannot post because the document does not contain a quantity or amount. And trust me, it has a quantity. It has an amount. It has a quantity to invoice. It's got a quantity to whatever else. I verified all the quantities. All the fields have a quantity. So that's not the issue. There's something different about posting to invoice versus posting to shipment and invoice. What is that difference? In Cronus, if you pull up a sales order and you try to ship to invoice, it will, if you try to post to invoice only, it will not post. What do you need to do to a sales order to get it to post to invoice? This error message, I'm not going to say it, it is poorly written, shall we say. So explain to me what is going on here. 30 minutes, perplexity. Jaws and I were staring at this like, well, I give up. I can do shipment invoice, which was good enough, but we couldn't do just ordered invoice. So this is a horrible error message. Anyway, so then part of this journey is not, it's getting this order posted to invoice, but then doing a correction. And what the customer is saying is because he went from order, posted from order to invoice, when he uses the correct feature, it will not, after it does the correction, it will not recreate a copy of the invoice to edit because it was not an invoice that got posted. It was a sales order that got posted. This is an interesting subtlety when you use the correct feature. So quantity to invoice, Jason says quantity to invoice equals 0. Nope, quantity invoice did have a quantity. Now maybe I need to make quantity to ship 0. I don't know. I need to we stared at it, fought with it for 30 minutes and we're like, I give up. So anyway, there is some subtlety. We looked at blog posts. We asked Perplexity. It gave us all the usual suspects of things to check. We checked everything. So this is something a little more subtle about posting order to invoice versus shipment invoice. Anyway, open to suggestions. So we're looking at the correct feature to deal with this issue, which is an interesting thing. If you go order to invoice for your posting, you cannot get the full benefits of correct. And notice this message. In the tooltip, it says to, when you use correct, it says to create a new invoice with the same information, use the copy function. But then if you do click on correct, you get this message. An invoice will automatically be created by the system. So I'm going to try to submit this to see if this is a mistake in the text or if I'm doing it wrong. So anyway, not that anyone reads these tooltips, but we're having to review them to just understand what the customer is doing and what the instructions are telling this user. And then on Wednesday, thanks to Brad, submitted a Directions NA session for that conference coming up. So we'll see how that goes. I probably need to submit a second one at least, maybe a third one, to increase my chances of being selected for speaker to avoid the very expensive conference fee. And, oh, how many of you are a developer or have developers, and those developers have looked at the AI development tools for AL and BC and said, this is too complex. AI can't help with this. I've tried it. It can't help me figure this out. It's wasted my time going down dead ends, and it's not good enough to help me with this. I'm just curious, because that's kind of the issue that we're dealing with. And what's wild, and I cannot reconcile the stories I see online where I 10x my productivity with these 5 Claude Code tips, right? I 100x my productivity, and now I'm a super vibe programmer, and I'm writing 300,000 lines of enterprise grade code in record time. Like, these are literal stories I'm seeing. And the 300,000 line story is from a hardcore, well-known senior developer. So I believe him. Like, it's come at great pain to him. It wasn't a walk in the park for him to develop that code, but he's doing it. But my junior dev is using AI all the time, but generally in bite-sized pieces. My senior dev is like, I've tried, and what it's telling me to do is garbage. I've wasted hours fighting with it when it can't figure out these problems, and I have to dive in and do it manually. And so the latest one was report extensions. We had to modify two reports. We initially thought we'd have to do a full copy. These are the 5,000 and 10,000 series reports that, thanks to Eric Hogard, these are involve temp tables and funky design. So they're a mess. So anyway, it's taken much longer than anticipated. And I said, well, hey, and on top of that, there was a bug or a design flaw that caused further problem. And then I said, well, hey, couldn't AI have saved some time here? And he said, I'm just tired of fighting with it. And I spend hours trying to get it to do something, and it sends me down this rabbit hole, and that's a dead end. And then I've wasted all that time, and then I just got to recover manually without AI. So I'm about to find out, right? So I'm the one pushing AI. So I'm about to try to deal with this. So Mo says you have to know what to say to it. Yes, but sometimes, it misinterprets the situation and just goes down a road and it has no answers. Kind of like when I'm trying to have it explain to me, perplexity, hey, why am I getting this posting error message when I'm trying to post a sales order? None of the answers it gave me were relevant. Like, literally tried everything, and there's something else that's not documented in a blog, and it just doesn't have the knowledge to help. So this is an edge case. This is a report that uses a funky temp table design and these horrible line number increment logic. And we initially thought we'd have a copy. My developer figured out we probably would be better off report extension, so we went that direction. But because of the funky design, he fought with this thing, and I think it was 18 hours for 2 reports. Pretty just not good. Now, if we have to do it again, obviously you kind of know, but There's always one funky other report screen, window, list page, code unit, you name it. Anytime we have to interact with base BC code, we know we're in risky territory. So I have a challenge for myself as a result, which I'll get to later. Thursday, jueves, ThinkPad repair. Here's a fun story. My lovely partner in crime, Tanya, has a problem with her ThinkPad keyboard. And this is not unknown among laptops and several different ThinkPad models. After 5 years of use and abuse, and who knows how much wine might have been spilled on the keyboard, they do die and certain groups of keys fail, and it's very weird behavior. So you're questioning your sanity because sometimes certain keys won't work, sometimes certain clusters of keys will stop working. So I was familiar with this. I said, you need a new keyboard. Not a big deal. We've replaced several of them. So she is all over the world, right? She was in Europe for directions EMEA. It started to have problems, and she's in Slovenia or Turkey or wherever she was. And I said, hey, you need to order a new keyboard. She goes, well, I don't know how to replace this. Let me buy a new $1,800 laptop because a keyboard is bad. No, $39.69 on Amazon, overnight delivery. Like, come on, like $39. She's like, but I don't know how to replace this. I'm like, I know a guy. Trust me. I know a guy because I know that she's going to be in El Salvador next week. And we have a virtually certified ThinkPad repair center in Berlin, El Salvador, on the side of a volcano. And wouldn't you know it, David, our certified ThinkPad repair person there, has replaced multiple ThinkPad keyboards. He's an old hand at this. We have all the tools, we have all the parts. You just need a keyboard for your particular model. Boom. So with ThinkPads, you just pull up that serial number. It'll tell you, the support site will tell you exactly what model, exactly what keyboard you need. You go on to eBay, or I found out Amazon, overnight shipping for $40, new keyboard. So she is in another state. She's going to have the keyboard delivered to her while she's on site with a customer. She's traveling to yet another state. Then she's hopping over to El Salvador, driving 3 hours with her keyboard to have it repaired in Berlin, El Salvador. Just saying, we've got some infrastructure, folks. So if you need your laptop repaired and you're swinging through Latin America, stop in El Salvador, drive 3 hours up the mountain, up the volcano, stop into our Berlin ThinkPad Repair Center. We will hook you up. But it's BYOP, bring your own parts, because there's 2,000 models of ThinkPad, so we don't have all the parts in stock. But they're cheap. So support contracts or managed services. Does your partner organization, or if you're a customer, I've asked this before, if you're a customer, does your partner require you effectively to have a managed service agreement or a support contract to help support your Business Central implementation? We work with partners and customers, and for whatever reason, the ThinkPad keyboards, I will agree, Jason, have declined. And old school keyboards with the full key travel, they were awesome, right? As they get thinner and thinner and thinner, suboptimal. The T14s, T470s, T480s, I don't know if there's a 490. The T4 series, those are pretty good still, full travel. T14 is intermediate. The X1 carbons are now super low key travel, key pitch, and not great. They still work, but yeah. But the good news is they're cheap. So managed services support contracts. I am sick and tired of getting 17 emails in my inbox over some support issue for a customer that I've never heard of who does not have a support contract with me. You want my genius level skills? You need to be in a support contract. So I have made it clear, 2026, no support contract, no Steve. Those are my rules. And no ERP support team, no Berlin support. we only accept support contract customers just because I'm sick of the 37 emails and Teams messages about this customer has this problem. Not my problem unless it goes through our help desk ticketing system or support contract customers. So we'll see how that goes. I'm I'm sure I'm going to make some people unhappy, but hey, a lack of organization on your part does not constitute an emergency on mine. Okay, and oh, Thursday. This is my great phone call. I had a call with a multinational, very large global organization. And they were trying to build a business central consulting practice in Latin America. Huh, what do you know? I might know a thing or two about that. And they happen to know me through some prior conversations. And we had a great phone call. So they said, hey, we would love to set up a business central consulting practice in, what do you know, El Salvador. And I explained what I was doing, and they said, whoa, you are not joking around. I said, I am not. So let's work together. Let's build something. Like, I don't care that you're building a Business Central consulting practice. If you need Salvadorans who know Business Central, I know a guy who might be able to help make that happen. So we'll see. Initial discussion, hoping to make things work, but been pounding this drum for a solid 2 years. And yeah, I know a guy. So we're going to see if we can make this happen and build a um, an entire program, as it were, with an entire pipeline of Salvadorans who speak English, who can type 60 words a minute, who know Business Central or whatever other skills this firm wants. You name it, we'll make it happen. And I'm also looking into whether we can have our Berlin team be MCTs, Microsoft Certified Trainers on Business Central. The challenge, I believe, is curriculum. So I'm going to reach out to the BC team to see if we can put something together and have a team of Microsoft Certified Trainers on Business Central in Berlin, El Salvador, Spanish and English. Bring it on. Yes, bring on the new year with support contracts and MCTs. Cybersec stuff, BEC, business email compromise. I mentioned this before, and this is a comical one, but I got a external electronic signature required complete docs document completion. Hello, info. You've been sent a document to review and sign. Clearly, just like poor quality, but it looks like a DocuSign. And I spoke with a partner who got phished, entered his credentials, and had his Office 365 account compromised. And I said, buddy, how is it possible that you got phished with MFA? And he's like, oh, that's right, MFA. How did I get phished? And I'm like, seriously? So somehow he got an email like this. It was from a customer where the timing was plausible enough where he thought that this was a document to review or an agreement to sign or whatever. So very good timing on the effort of the Fisher. But he clicked through to this. He entered his Office 365 account information. I'm like, you had to have done MFA, seriously? But apparently it was smooth enough where he didn't realize what was going on. And only after he entered the MFA and fully authenticated and his account was compromised did he realize what had happened. And he made the additional mistake of emailing the contact that sent the phishing email. Bro, of course that email inbox already had rules set up and auto responses and was monitoring our email. So when he emailed that contact to say, hey, this was a phishing email, the response was, oh no, it's all good. My account's fine. And so his security person said, come on, man, you know better. Think about this for 5 seconds. He's like, yeah, that was kind of dumb. So this is what the phishing emails look like, and they are getting past MFA, hence the phishing resistant MFA that I mentioned at the beginning. So it is no longer enough, sadly, to just have Microsoft Authenticator and code matching MFA. You now need phishing resistant MFA, which I don't know, is probably phishable, involves passkeys or FIDO or whatever. So it must authenticate on your machine and can't be handed off to a man in the middle attack. I'll have to look into it. I haven't looked into the full mechanisms of how phishing resistant MFA would fully defeat this situation where you're effectively doing a pass-through authentication. I kind of get it, but I'd have to look into it closely. And then I attended on, I don't know, Thursday, this Black Hills Information Security webinar. Because it was John Strand doing the presentation, I attended, but it turned out to have a totally different angle, and it's more about Chinese culture and history and the government and how they're doing compromises and their cybersecurity or cyber military force, whatever you want to call it. So more historical and cultural and contextual than kind of hands-on technical. So that wasn't quite as interesting to me as I thought, but always good to hear John Strand talk. And if you are not listening to Darknet Diaries podcast, I believe Ted is the one who sent this to me and got me hooked on it. So Darknet Diaries is a podcast by Reciter, forgot his first name, and excellent host, excellent stories. And this is about a cybersecurity professional named Tanya, who sounds phenomenal. She sounds like a world class, more on the blue team AppSec focus. And she tells some war stories that she's gone through in dealing with incident response, and really phenomenal stories. You're like, she must work with some of the most obnoxious people on the planet based on the stories she has told, like being screamed at and like by her, effectively her colleagues within an organization where she's trying to help do AppSec, and people, IT and developers are screaming at her in the workplace, like really unprofessional stuff, wild, wild stories. And we actually have a clause in our contract now about professional conduct because we've had a few customers where they've had some really unhinged employees yelling at our consultants. So this situation is unacceptable to me. Like that would be a fireable offense for us. But yeah, great podcast episode 165 of Darknet Diaries. Jack Reciter. Thank you, Ted. Yep. Yeah. Ted's the one who got me hooked on this. So 2026 events, Partner Vibe Conference, January 28th through 30th, Partner in Vibe. And this is for Microsoft partners, not just Dynamics, not just Business Central, Microsoft partners, Azure, whatever other partners there are. South Padre Island, Texas. I have finally booked my flight. That was painful getting to South Padre Island. So I'm going from LAX to Harlingen or something, Texas, HRL. Not easy. So there are 3 airports around South Padre Island. Choose wisely. It will depend on where you're coming from, where you can get in. So Directions NA, April 27th to 29th in Orlando. The call for speakers is open. So submit your sessions. I have one in with my buddy Brad. Brad and I are going to talk about vibe coding and AI development. So we have a action-packed fun session on that, which I am actively working on content for. And then Dynamics Con is in May 12th through 15th in Las Vegas, dynamicscon.com. Session submissions are also open for that. So start submitting for Directions NA and Dynamics Con now, session ideas and great presentations. Bring it on. Dynamics Mind is in May 25th through 27th in Slovenia, dynamicsminds.com. Partner in Vibe Conference, what is this about? This is partnerin.io/vibe. Session submissions are closed at the moment. They got 3 times more sessions than they would have cautiously expected for their first year. And this is January 28th through 30th in South Padre Island, Texas, Courtyard by Marriott. And this is a high level advanced topics for Microsoft partners, not just Dynamics, not just Business Central. So any Microsoft partner. So pretty broad topic, not sure what it's going to be like, but I'm kind of curious. So I went a little broad, high level with the topics of building a nearshore practice, a little bit of experience with that. Avoiding $1 million lawsuit. That is a reprise of a session that I did at Directions NA this year. And about what can happen that can cause you to get in the lawsuit. What is it like when that starts? It is not pleasant. You want to avoid that at all costs. No one wins. Trust me. You will spend an absolute ton of money trying to defend yourself, and no one will come out of that a winner. And if you think you can defend yourself adequately, you are in a world of pain. Thriving in the age of AI development, why modern software engineering is more important than ever. And this is where I am based off of the Modern Software Engineering YouTube channel. And I forgot the guy's name. He had a great video where he was arguing that classical or modern software engineering practices, principles, and discipline could potentially be very valuable to help organizations transition to AI development. Because if you do not have the practices and the discipline of using modern software engineering tools and procedures, you are going to be in a heap of trouble if you try to adopt AI and vibe code your way into the AI development world. It might be possible, but I can imagine without good practices and procedures, it's going to be pretty messy. So that's my angle. It's a hypothesis I'm trying to build, and I'm kind of justifying the topic, but I'm finding some good evidence, but I'm also finding some counterpoints, which I'll also present as well. So an interesting journey on that topic. AL Vibe Coding Adventures. So I am developing what I'm calling vibe coding benchmarks, one of which is a customer support plan application. This is a hypothetical PTE, which is soon to become a real PTE used by partners to provide management, tracking, and billing, whatever, of a customer support plan. So as we go to managed service agreements and customer support contracts, this will be a PTE in Business Central that will allow you to manage, track, monitor, whatever, customer support plans and support agreements in Business Central. So that is the basis of vibe coding, or a demonstration of vibe coding. I have a PRD for that, wireframes, and I'm exploring all sorts of alternatives. What happens when I use a PRD? How do these models behave? How does Cursor versus Copilot behave? What happens if I ask for a solution without a PRD? I just did this week. Fascinating. Not only did it develop a fully functional app, but it suggested features I hadn't even considered that were not in my PRD. So on the one hand, you say, well, you've got to have a PRD to guide it and tell it exactly what to do. But I realized by not having a PRD and just giving it an open-ended prompt, it gave me some really cool features and it coded it up. Like, I never thought of that. Like, what is your support contract rate? How do you want to implement your support policies? What is your response time on this? What is your SLA or whatever? And it gave me all sorts of additional features when I did not give it a PRD. And I'm like, wow. So using it to just explore functionality design, and I haven't even gotten a plan mode in Cursor. I don't know what plan mode is in Copilot, but in Cursor, it's a specific mode called plan mode where it walks you through the journey of product design and creates checklists for you. So yeah, like really phenomenal. And I get that some people are skeptical or burn out or whatever on AI, but I'm just like in vibe coding paradise. This is amazing. And I've had very good results so far because I'm not in the trenches trying to debug, a 3,000 line code unit. And my new vibe coding adventure, which I do not look forward to, it is not a fun adventure like unicorns and rainbows. It is like trench warfare adventure. will be reproducing the 5,000 and 10,000 series report extension that my developer just did. And he is like, I don't want to ever see this thing again. And I'm asking him, did you use AI to help you? He says, there's no chance AI could have helped me. I'm like, okay, I'm going to be the sucker who has to figure this out to see whether AI could do this. And he says, hey, if AI can do this for you, being that you, Steve, are clueless, I am open to the conversation. He says, I will no longer have an argument against AI. If Steve is able to vibe code his way out of the 5,000 and 10,000 series report extensions, bring it on. I'm like, okay. So now it's my put up or shut up time. So I've got to deal with this. This is my weekend project. Unfortunately, it's not going to be pleasant. If you've seen these reports, it's like, oh dear God, what were they thinking? It's like summer intern on acid. The reports are so poorly designed. Anyway, not to diss the poor intern. They did their best, but it's really, really, really bad. And check this out. Developers busy. Bunch of stuff going on. Bunch of annoying people bothering him. Like some guy who's asking, is it done yet? Right? And did you use AI to fix it? And so he's juggling a bunch of stuff. He delivers a PT. He says, I'm done. Push it, deploy it, ready to go. Looks great. I've tested it. As soon as I install it, I go to look for the feature. I can't find it. One of the features. And so Ted asks, why modify when long-term would be better to start from scratch, 10K report? So we initially, our statement of work was to copy the report. But as soon as he looked at it, because Eric said you cannot do a report extension for these. But as soon as we looked at it, we're like, no chance. He tried to copy it. It will not compile. All sorts of compilation errors, all sorts of runtime errors, because as you may know, Business Central has their own compile rules, and they get to break all sorts of compiler rules that we have to follow. And so the 10,000 report is an absolute dumpster fire of compilation errors and non-best practices and doing things that we are not allowed to do. So he went down that road and is just like scorched earth nightmare. He's like, nope, I can't do it. So he figured out that he could use a report extension, use variables, and kind of inject those into the report rather than messing with a temp table. Yeah, and so this does not use sales header, sales line directly, which is another problem we had. In our statement of work, we assume that it uses sales line. It does not. It uses this warehouse shipment tables. Absolute nightmare. Yeah, the temp and integer loops. You know what I'm talking about, Ted. Yep. Ted knows. I can see the battle scars just from that comment alone. So anyway, that's my punishment for pushing this AI vibe coding thing, right? If I can AI vibe code the 5,000 and 10,000, I'm sorry. I get the trophy, I get the medal, and I can say that vibe coding can pull off some pretty incredible things. So anyway, ask AI, did I miss anything? So my developer delivered a PTE, and I go to check one of the features, and I'm like, I'm not seeing this one feature. And he's like, oh my God, I missed it. I feel so sorry. And like, and he felt really bad. I'm like, it's okay. It's just one setting, like not a big deal. We'll just fix it and redeploy. He says, but I have higher standards. I shouldn't have missed that. I'm like, okay. But some jerk named Steve wrote this change request. You didn't. So you're busy. You didn't go back and reread the change request, which I don't blame you. So what do I ask? Can AI help with this? So last night, 10 o'clock at night, I fire up Cursor. I export the change request just to a text file. I didn't clean up anything. I just slapped it out to text. I threw it in the project. I got a copy of the project, dropped it in a docs folder, and I gave Cursor that file, the entire change request document, not a single edit. And I said, this file is a change request defining changes to be made to this application. I've completed the changes that are defined. Please review the application to confirm I've completed the change. Let me know if there's anything that I missed. Right? Like, why not? If it's a 10-page statement of work, nobody's got time to read that, right? I don't blame you. I wouldn't want to read it, and I wrote it. So, can my developer just shove this stuff into Cursor or Copilot and say, hey, just double check my work? I don't want to have to reread this boring document again. It says completed. Yes, you completed this task. The amount to apply modification is implemented. Ta-da, cha-ching, check mark. And missing, setup option to enable disable. It read the change request document without any modifications, just fully human readable, did nothing to it for AI. It scanned the entire project, which included a whole bunch of other features that have nothing to do with this change request. And it said, you missed this feature. It says, hey, this change request requires these items, a configuration option, and this field. And these components would be required, a table extension, a page extension, and logic in this event. I recommend doing these things. Would you like me to do it for you? I'm sorry. It's going to get harder and harder for developers to say that AI is not helpful. And understandably, the problem is switching your mindset to be AI first. How can this dumb robot help me with mundane tasks? It's not going to help you with rocket science, but maybe it'll help you with dumb things like reviewing the SOW that you don't want to read again and seeing if you missed anything. So yes, ask AI, did I miss anything? Yes, you missed this. Would you like me to do it for you? Folks, I don't know. So, yeah. So, great question from my developer. He says, hey, Steve, just let me ask you a question. I've gone down many dark paths with the AI, many dead ends. I've been beat up in an alley at 9 p.m. after 4 hours of fighting with a dumb AI. How long will you fight with an AI before you give up, cut your losses, and eat the hours you just wasted with a dumb AI and have to hand code your way through the rest of the statement of work? Fantastic question. What is your cutoff point? Because you cannot have the sunk cost fallacy here. You will go down a dead end and the AI will be useless and you will be, laying at the back of an alley, beat up and battered, and you'll still have 40 more hours of work to do where the AI doesn't even understand what you're trying to do and it cannot help you. It can only lead you astray. So what is that cutoff point? How long do you fight with an AI before you call it and say, clearly the AI is incapable? I'm going to guess it's going to be less than an hour just because I'm impatient and I don't have the patience to deal with dumb responses. So kind of like how the AI was unable to help me deal with that invoice posting issue on the code, I think I'll pretty quickly see that it's going astray and knowing like if I get a response and I have 50 errors on the build and it doesn't work on the first try, I'll know that I need to take a different approach. So start from scratch, ask it different questions, ask it for a different plan, ask it for a different analysis. Maybe you could still use AI, but give up on this dark alley. Do not try to fight it. You got to come back to zero and then try again if you're going to use AI. So that's what I'm learning about, right? Okay. Holy cow. If you are in the United States, or maybe Canada, I don't know, North America, wherever the phrase ACH means something to you, please, for the love of all that is holy, do not use this service. I don't know if there are different versions of the Wells Fargo ACH vendor or supplier payment service, but whatever this is, if you see the phrase Wells Fargo supplier analysis and onboarding, please, for the mental health of your vendors, do not use this service. It is absolutely horrible. The worst, most inane, amateur, like, I wouldn't even insult summer interns with this. It is so bad. Don't do it. Like I was having an aneurysm with how poorly designed this thing is. You cannot paste things in. You have to re-enter passwords multiple times. Like it it is horrible. If you touch the control key, it pops up a dialog saying you can't paste. You can't do that here. And it interferes with your data entry. And you click, there's no response. You don't know if it's working or not. Horrible. Horrible. Do not use Wells Fargo for your vendor ACH payment portal, whatever. It's abysmal. Use any other solution. Like just print checks. Like, please. Not worth it. Horrible. Friday, Viernes. External APIs represent risk. We have been dealing with an external API, a SaaS platform used by over 40,000 customers purportedly. It is horrible. And they said, oh, we're going to have a new release that adds this great feature. We're excited because we needed that feature for this customer. It's going to be released on whatever, September 30th. We check on September 30th. No new API. This after spending 6 months fighting with this API to get it to work. We email them. What's the deal? There's no API. Oh, it's been postponed. It's going to be in a week. We email them a week. Still nothing. Oh, it's been postponed. Maybe by the end of the month. We wait until the end of October. Check. No, sorry, it's been delayed. Finally, we get an email last week, maybe it was this week, saying, oh, it's finally in production. We go and query the API. I'm like, we're not seeing it still in production or sandbox. Email them, oh, well, it should be there. Which endpoint are you using to look up this information? Turns out the screenshot they sent for their payload announcing this new feature had no context. So we mistakenly assumed it was in the endpoint we're calling. There's a list endpoint of all these transactions. No, you have to drill into every single transaction to check the status. You cannot get a list of transactions to see whether they were processed or approved or updated or whatever out of thousands of transactions that you may need to check. You have to drill into every single one to find these new features. Oh dear. Oh dear. So anytime you have to integrate or deal with an external API, red flag on your proposal, red flag on your contract, statement of work, or whatever, you have to mitigate the risk. Otherwise, you could have $1 million lawsuit on your hands. Important meetings. I am heading off to some meetings at a fancy place later today to have big, important meetings with people I know. And I've been getting this. I don't know what this is. It's popping up when I log into a browser or whatever, something Microsoft. My Outlook is now popping this up. I honestly don't even know what account it is. It shows an email address, but I literally have multiple Microsoft logins for the same email address. I have no idea what I'm supposed to enter here. And it's saying my account is temporarily locked. I don't even know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know who to call. I'm so lost with these Microsoft logins. It's so bad. I have so many Microsoft logins, it's not even funny. I must have 30 different logins I have to actively manage for different tenants. It's out of control. And that is why whenever someone recommends a Microsoft service for some other thing, I'm like, absolutely not. I will use dog food open source software instead of Microsoft simply so I don't have to deal with another Microsoft login. And check this out. Do you notice anything interesting about this? I was not aware of this. Maybe I'd seen an announcement about some TLDs, but this is the first time I was like, wait a minute. You notice anything about that TLD? I thought it was a typo. I was like, wait, what? admin.cloud.microsoft. This is a Microsoft TLD .microsoft. I've never seen that before. And I know someone's going to say, duh, I've seen it all over the place. First time I've seen it, I thought it was like, wait, what? I thought it was some weird internal, browser redirect portal app, something. No, it's an actual TLD, admin.cloud.microsoft. Who knew? Next, it's going to be dot, I don't know, Oracle, dot Adobe. Like, are these vanity domains? Who gets to define these? Are we going to do dot Steve? I don't know. Okay. Summit NA Roadshows, dynamicscommunities.com, December 9th in Houston, December 11th in Florida. DynamicsCon Regionals 2026, January in Tampa, March in Vancouver, April in Denver. DynamicsUserGroup.com. Check them out. Excellence updates, kind of a slow week because I swear everyone has been sick one reason or another. Jocelyn continues to be an RDLC champ, pushing out some reports there, helping me out with help desk tickets and KB articles. Done a fantastic job writing up a KB article on vendor vendor return payments, credits. It wasn't a credit memo, it's actual vendor refund. So a vendor sends you back a payment. How do you record that in BC? So she researched it, wrote up a nice article on that for our customers. David continues to work with custom reports and layouts and SOD custom reports. Ronald is wrapping up his McCorma Super Check and Overflow demo and procedures and presentation. Franklin is doing some partner dashboard PRs. And Fatima is finishing up her studying for the PMP certification. That is, I believe, a 180 question 4-hour exam for PMI, PMP certification. So she is preparing for that, redoing all the sample questions she has, and dreading the 4-hour process of doing that certification. And she's also helping with the final planning of El Coyolar Christmas Festival, which is December 13th, 14th, Friday, which Tanya and I will be there. And Dynamics User Group, we are moving forward with an El Salvador Dynamics User Group out of Berlin, El Salvador. And final update on mechanical keyboards. I continue down the mechanical keyboard rabbit hole thanks to the algorithms and the spying on my conversations. And so I saw this video by Primogen, LTT Kinesis Review, where he reviews a video by Linus Tech Tips, where the person from Linus Tech Tips reviews a keyboard called the Kinesis Advantage 360. And I've gone down rabbit holes, but this is an interesting one. So this is not just fancy high-end Thocky versus PBT double shot keycaps and what balancer do you use, bro? This is going in the direction of ergonomics and repetitive strain injury, RSI, and having the optimal ergonomic experience and typing speed and finger strain and all this crazy stuff. And so this keyboard is designed so you put your hands there and you float. You do not rest, you float. And the idea is that every key is equidistant from each appropriate fingertip. So you're not like stretching your finger or your thumb or your ring finger, whatever. And everything is within proper reach. And that's why all the keys are at funky heights. And then they put a bunch of keys at the thumb. So reducing strain on other fingers, you'll use control and other stuff, I guess, from the thumb. Wild. Now, I am not going there because it's super funky and apparently it takes a couple weeks to train. And also because it is $400 to $500 to $600, depending on the model. So no thanks, but very interesting. The people who use these things love them. And I think Lex Friedman is a Kinesis fanboy. So if you've seen his podcast, he's got this funky split keyboard. I didn't know what that was. It's a Kinesis, Vantage 360, most likely. But one thing that would be of interest is from the mechanical keyboard subreddit, coffee keycaps. You know, maybe I'll put them on the Christmas list, have my coffee keycaps. It's not really my vibe. It's okay, but it's coffee, so thought I'd share that. So, yeah, the original IBM Model M clicky keyboard. Now, I got you beat there because I was with the OG IBM Selectric 2 electric mechanical typewriter with the steel ball that punched out the letters. So the IBM Model M keyboard was a bit modeled off of the IBM Selectric typewriter. So that is what I used as a kid. We had one at home, OG IBM Selectric typewriter. So look up that one. So yes, the IBM keyboard clicky, hence all the blue key switches, but those are a little noisy, and my family would kill me. So Q&A. This week's Q&A is the Framework laptop. I'm seeing influencers and YouTubers talk about their Framework laptops, and yeah, I'm not in the market to buy a new laptop and spend, yes, the golf ball typewriter. Yep. Yep. Jason knows. Yep. Um, and you switch out the golf balls for the different typefaces. Oh man, I haven't thought about it in years. And you got to replace the correction ribbon. So the Framework laptop is this. It was launched many years ago. I think Linus Tech Tips was one of the investors. And it is a modular laptop that is repairable, upgradable, and high quality, and not 27 pounds. And it looks like it's doing fairly well. I don't know what series this is, like the third or fourth iteration of it, but they now have a couple of models, but based on some specs that I chose, arbitrary kind of mid to high specs, it'll be in the $1,500 and $1,900 range, which is, yeah, it's just crazy. I'll just buy used ThinkPads all day off of eBay instead of doing that. I just don't need a high-end laptop. So, but very interesting. People are using this and testing it with AI models that test performance. That's kind of the influencer thing now with this, but looks kind of cool. I don't know about the quality of the build but it seems pretty well built. Um, yes, the constant motor hum of the IBM Selectric. Like you turn it on, it's like it's like a 5 horsepower motor running in that thing. Like you see the lights dim when you turn it on. That thing was an absolute beast. Like the cast steel build. Like you don't want to throw that at someone if you could even lift it. So check out the Framework laptop. If anyone's using it, let me know. I don't think I'll do it because I'm not going to spend $1,500 or more on a laptop. But anyway, and with that, I am off to a very important meeting with fancy people. And que tengas un buen fin de semana. Adios.
Good, good, good morning, sun. Good morning, life. Good morning, sun.